to listen to this, a particular show where they discussed Prop K. The show is called the Shame-Free Zone. It addresses many issues around healthy sexuality. She's been a spokesperson for sex worker rights for many years. She's been a guest on CNN, Fox News, Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect. She was the spokesperson for San Francisco Coyote during the 1990s, and she's a current member of another sex worker group, San Francisco SWAP. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you. I like to stand when I talk. I am so honored and excited to be here with you. I've never been to Yale University. I got butterflies just flying over here. So I want to take this discussion. We've been really talking about the politics and the laws, and I want to take it into the personal, because I really do believe that the personal is political. Laws, first and foremost, come out of people's value systems. The way that the voters feel about right and wrong, good and evil, and what those concepts mean to them is how we wind up with laws. And of course, if you're working in the legal profession, then you have to enforce those laws or try to question them. And I hope to plant some seeds in your brains today to ask you to question some of the laws that we have. Obviously, we know that some of the laws that are still on the books today controlling people's sexuality are ridiculous. And the Supreme Court reasserted that gay people have a right to engage in sex as long as they're adults, they're consensual, and it's behind closed doors. 2003, Lawrence versus Texas. That was a landmark case that a lot of us in the sex industry took a great deal of hope for. And of course, the religious right was very upset about that Supreme Court ruling because they said it was a slippery slope, and it may be just a matter of time before we find that prostitution was legal. Now, I was listening to CNN last night, and they said that 60% of Americans believe that it is immoral, that sex for money is immoral. And you know, you have to ask, like, what does this survey mean? Sex for money is immoral. 60% of Americans believe that right now, which means for those of us who want to see prostitution decriminalized, we've got quite a hurdle to get past people's moral objections to it. One of the things that I have been accused of for the last, I guess I've been debating the sex worker rights movement now since 1990, so it's 19 years almost. I have been accused of glamorizing prostitution because my personal path was that I graduated from college, I went to Oregon State University, I got a degree in psychology. I was an honor student, and the way that I paid my tuition was by teaching English as a tutor on campus. So I was not at all associated with the sex industry, and then I went into corporate America for 7 years and worked a lot of management jobs. So I was an office manager, and then I became a marketing representative for a radio station. I wasn't particularly good at that one. But one of the consistent things for me was that I was not happy in these jobs that I had worked very long and hard in college and a lot of on-the-job training to try to aspire to, and it wasn't actually feeding me. And I got into the sex industry, and for me, it turned out to be a very, very exciting and sometimes, yes, glamorous job, but oftentimes it was just me, a normal human being, living in an apartment to begin with, and then I bought the house and had the husband and the kids and the dog and the cat, you know, the American dream, while I'm catching planes flying all over the U.S. to see high-powered clients. What you think about that is that you will hear over and over again that is a small minority, that most of the prostitutes are actually working in the streets, and that's a bald-faced lie. And I challenge you, go drive the stroll in your own city. Go drive the stroll in all the cities in the United States, and then hop online, check the internet. Because what you're going to find out is that probably at 80% of prostitution is taking place behind closed doors, consenting adults. Nobody's trafficked, nobody's imprisoned, nobody's drug addicted. These are school teachers and therapists sometimes, and nurses. A lot of times, and why am I targeting those industries? Because actually sex industry workers can come from any industry, but those just happen to be service-oriented industries, and the sex profession is service-oriented. Now, if we can wrap our minds around it, but that is so hard to do because every time we talk about sex, people get tweaked. We get very, very silly about sex. We have a hard time being logical or scientific. You know, when the Mies Commission years ago was hired to prove that pornography was creating a bunch of societal ills. We wanted to prove that pornography led to rape and all this stuff, and they couldn't. They could not prove it, so the Mies Commission came back and they said, well, we just know that it is anyway. So, now, I'd like you to think, it used to be that pornography was really considered an evil. We were sure that this meant society was going to go to hell in a handbasket. I was just recently speaking at Sonoma State University, which is a college in California, and the students had done an informal survey. And just for their student population, about 99% of the male students were regularly viewing online porn. That wasn't particularly shocking. I suppose most of us think that guys are looking at porn online. However, the female population of that same university, about 60% of them are looking at porn on a regular basis. So porn has become incredibly mainstream in our culture. And what I think is incredibly strange about that is that that is sex for money. And if any of you have ever paid $5, $6, $12, whatever, to become a member for an online porn site, or if you've ever picked up a pornographic magazine, or if you've ever been in your hotel room and decided to get the Spice Channel or something like that, then you are guilty of paying for sex. And this idea that we have segregated society and there's people who get paid for sex and there's people who pay for it and they're all some kind of social misfits and we need to put them in jail is ludicrous. Because right now, decent, married people pay for pornography all the time. As a matter of fact, we now have Christian websites they're selling sex toys and things like that, but I don't know that they've actually got the porn there, but they're starting to head off in that direction, and they've got something they call soulgasms now. But I think it's great that we are starting to open up sexually. But here's the thing. What's really going on here is that some people can get paid for sex. Do you know what the difference between prostitution and pornography is? Just one person? Because if you've got two people that are going to engage in sex, in prostitution, one person pays the other person, and those two people have sex. In pornography, you've got three people. These two people are going to have sex. They're both going to get paid, and the director or the producer is the one that's going to pay them. That is the only difference between those two items, those two professions in the sex industry. So it absolutely doesn't make any moral distinction if two people decide to get a hotel room and one of them pays and the other one gets paid, or if two people decide, hey, let's have the broker over there pay us to have sex with each other, okay? Well, now, you're right, we're not going to hell. So if the reason that we have laws against prostitution is because of our morals, we need to check on that. It's the same discussion that we had around gay sex. Somehow or another, this was eroding society, and we know that that's a crock now. We know that's ridiculous. And I'm here to tell you, and one of the reasons I've been doing this for 20 years is because, you know, a lot of times speaking at colleges and universities is not particularly, you know, good for the pocketbook. But I really do believe in this. I really do believe that you all deserve to have a sexual bill of rights. Now here's the thing, you don't. You do not have the right to have sex how you choose in this country. You have the right to freedom of speech, you've got the right to freedom of assembly, you've got the right to a freedom of the press, you've got freedom of religion. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that guarantees your right to sex. And if the government wanted to pass a law against all sex tomorrow, it could. So I think this is very personal. I really do. It's a very personal thing. Now, okay, that aside, let's talk about just these horrible things that are happening to people that are working in prostitution. We hear that they're getting beat up by their pimps, or their clients are violent, or that they're getting raped or robbed. The job is so oppressive and depressing that they have to use drugs to get through it. And so therefore what we need to do is to pass laws to protect, and I'm going to say women. Yes, transgender and men and women work in the sex industry, but the laws are not aimed at those people so much as they're aimed towards our patronizing attitudes about women. And really, when it comes right down to it, we have still got a whore Madonna complex where we've got good women over here and bad women over there. And what we do is the good women get protected and the bad women get prosecuted. So prostitutes go to jail and wives put their husbands in jail for beating them up. But I always thought it was very, very strange that I got accused of glamorizing prostitution, because I think, well, that's the reality of my life. Now, when I was going to Oregon State University, I volunteered for a center against rape and domestic violence. I came from a home where both of my parents were violent. Now, if I had never ever gone on to be happily married myself, or if my grandparents hadn't celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary, I would have been convinced that marriage sucked. Because what I saw were women with bruises and blood, and they were afraid of the guy that they were married to, and we were keeping our location secret because those guys were going to come and kill us. If that's all you ever see is the people who are in crisis, and I guarantee you that's all you ever see. All the surveys and studies that you hear quoted about post-traumatic stress disorder and all the other things that are affecting prostitutes, do you know how they get that stuff? Somebody is in crisis. They've either been arrested, they're homeless, their children have been taken away from them, they are needing rehab from drug addiction, or they have to go to a clinic for sexual services and condoms. These are not people who've got big bank accounts and who are charting their own profession in the sex industry. So yeah, they need your help, and they end up taking the survey, and they become the demographic. That's not a random sample, you guys. It just isn't. So to say that these statistics bear fruit is ridiculous. Now, in the last couple minutes that I have, I want to talk about the fact that feminism is a huge cornerstone to the movement against prostitution. And it's not necessarily third-wave feminism. Third-wave feminism tends to be kind of sex-positive. Second-wave feminists really have the attitude that all prostitution is rape. And as a matter of fact, when I was speaking at Kent State University a few years ago, a very prominent feminist by the name of Gail Dines wanted me to take off of that week's line of keynote addresses, because she said, no sex worker should be allowed to speak for herself. And that's pretty much the way it's been. The feminists have entire conferences on the sex industry, and they refuse to invite us to them. And we are not allowed to speak for ourselves. I don't understand how feminism can say I have the right to vacuum a fetus out of my womb, but I can't put anything I want up my snatch for a couple of dollars. It confounds me. My body is my business should be the whole ways. Whatever I want to do with my body, how is it that somebody can come along and suddenly say, well, you're in denial and we need to reprogram you? No, thank you. So, how am I doing on time?
1 more minute.
1 minute. Okay. So here's the thing. You're already buying sex, okay? So get over it. It's already legal to sell sex. Get over it. The only people who are getting targeted here are women who are small business owners, and we'd like to make a buck. And, as far as the problems that you are reading about and seeing in the media, those exist. They don't need to be treated by laws. We need to have the same kind of services that we put out for married people. We don't pass laws against marriage. What we do is we approach drug addiction, domestic violence, and child abuse, underage sex. We approach all of that stuff in the context of existing laws. We don't need a separate set of laws for sex workers when it comes to that. It's ridiculous. And as long as there is one group of people in this country that we have made it legal to harass and jail because of their sexual behavior, then you will never have a complete bill of sexual rights either. Thank you.